Mr. Chairman, is there anything you guys have dropped the ball on?
What is your personal opinion? Do you think it's sustainable for Cape Cod to do this right now?
The governor herself.
Simple reason.
The governor herself says it's not sustainable.
Good evening. It is October 6th, and welcome back to Cape Media News, your source for hyperlocal news that matters. I'm Lauren Williamson. Forget dropping the ball. Yarmouth is looking to find the ball as they struggle with migrants being placed in motels along Route 28. The real issue has been lack of communication between the state and local governments, leading to panic amongst township residents. A sentiment that has been expressed by local officials as they give an update on the situation.
Mr. Chairman, board members, thank you for the opportunity to provide some context of what's gone on over the past 15 days at the Harbor Suites. I do want to start with echoing what the chairman and all of you, the board, and what Bob just outlined. Lines of communication and getting reliable information has been challenging at best. You've all struggled with it, certainly at the health department. Our motto, if we can predict it, we can prevent it, or at least react to it. It's been very difficult to get information so that we can properly respond and protect, right? Our mission is to safeguard the community, surveillance, and hopefully act proactively. In this case, we haven't really. We've been reactive, and that really isn't the best way for public health. The struggles that I hope the community understands that the struggles that this board and the town administrator has as far as unreliable, imperfect data, those are real, but we're doing the best we can with that and responding. So to walk you through this, again, Bob said 22 families, 78 individuals, but on that Sunday night when it started, I think it was the 10th, Monday we gathered all to try to coordinate and what this was going to look like, and by Tuesday, the building commissioner and myself visited the site. At that time, it was not those numbers. It was first phase, early on. I don't recall exactly what the numbers were, but it is incrementally upwardly adjusted. We were met by 2 RNs. The medical response team was actually on site, and that was talked about 2 weeks ago, that the concern was communicable disease. What are the concerns? Things of that nature. I hope this message is reassuring to some degree to the community and the public at large, for the individuals living there and the surveillance that safeguards for the community at large and the schools. 2 RNs have been there to do medical assessments, not invasive procedures, but medical assessments, cataloging the health of all of the individuals, from the small children all the way through to the adults. That went on. Additionally, on that Tuesday when the building commissioner and I were there, 4 staff from DY School were there. They were doing the processing and the enrolling of school-aged children. That went on for several days, and I think that probably would have continued beyond that. The medical assessments continued all the way through, and I checked, and I keep checking daily with what, as you probably are aware, the MAVEN system, right? That's our communicable disease tracking, right? The Massachusetts Virtual Epidemiological Network. That's going to tell us across all of the communities here, right? That's an integrated system of the 80 communicable diseases. There are none at this site right now. There is surveillance going on, and there's medical for the individuals that are there, the safeguards for public health, for the individuals and the families that are living there, and the at-large community for Yarmouth, to making sure that individuals, their health, their safety, and their future, as far as, moving hopefully up and beyond this. I handled housing in some big urban communities, and this is really warehousing individuals. It's really not giving them much of an opportunity to thrive. I hope this is just phase 1, but they're on a track to then be able to move up and out, and that's where that is. But we're monitoring this. I hope the community understands. Communicable disease tracking is in place, and there has not been a concern in any way as far as communicable disease.
Last week, 10 men from the Cape and surrounding areas were arraigned on charges of soliciting sexual conduct. Men from Hyannis, Marston Mills, South Yarmouth, Brewster, Chatham, Sandwich, Falmouth, and New Bedford were arrested during a sting operation following an investigation by the Barnstable Police Department, Massachusetts State Police, and the Department of Homeland Security. The men responded to fake advertisements online posted by undercover officers posing as sex workers, who then arranged meetups under the false premise of paying for sexual services. Each man was charged with 1 count of paying for sexual conduct and currently faces hefty fines of up to $5,000 or up to 2.5 years in prison. Cape and Islands District Attorney Robert Galaboy declined to comment as the investigation is still ongoing. The Department of Elementary and Secondary Education recognized 2 Cape high schools for their outstanding growth and learning achievements last year. Cape Cod Regional Technical High School is accredited as a School of Recognition for the class of 2025's MCA's test scores and attendance rates. And Sturgis Charter Public School is one of 353 National Blue Ribbon schools across the United States. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education submitted Sturgis for this award and was selected based on their overall academic performance, as well as the school's culture and community. Based on metrics that had not been shared publicly since before the pandemic, these awards indicate continued academic recovery since the COVID shutdown in 2020. Education Secretary Patrick Tutwiler stated the pandemic learning loss is a national problem, but these results show signs of recovery thanks to the hard work of educators, students, families, and staff. Barnstable Chief of Police Matthew Sonnabend is taking a leave of absence from the Barnstable Police Department. Sonnabend has been granted an extended medical leave effective immediately, with no return date set. Deputy Chief Gene Challies will fill the position in his absence. Sonnabend has been on the police force for 26 years, serving the towns of Falmouth and Barnstable, and was appointed Barnstable Chief of Police in 2018, succeeding Chief Paul McDonald. Barnstable's Director of Communications declined to provide any further details on Sonnabend's leave. If you have flood insurance, you may have noticed a change in your policy since last April. The Federal Emergency Management Agency has rolled out a new flood risk rating system known as Risk Rating 2.0. The new system assesses each property based on several variables, such as frequency of flooding to the property, the reason for flooding, such as a river overflow or coastal erosion, distance from the water source, and property elevation. This differs from the previous risk rating system by determining a rate based on each property's unique qualities, rather than lumping multiple properties into one zone with the same rate. While rising sea levels and increasing severe weather events spell trouble for coastal communities like the Cape, not everyone will experience increased insurance rates. Though 50% of policyholders in Massachusetts have experienced increases of about $120 per year, 40% have seen their policy costs drop, and some will see no change in their rates. Cape Cod Commission has released their Regional Policy Plan Flood Area Design Guidelines, outlining strategies to mitigate property and environmental damages from flooding and hopefully keeping insurance rates from rising any further. These guidelines describe solutions like retrofitting homes with flood-resistant designs, landscaping solutions, and temporary or permanent barriers for neighborhoods. To read the entire guideline, visit capecodcommission.org. Coming up after the break, Chatham tree hearings and more. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Cape Media News. I'm Lauren Williamson. The town of Chatham held a public tree hearing this week to address the removal of 2 trees, a 32-inch horse chestnut and a 12-inch Norway maple on the Eldridge Public Library property to accommodate the implementation of the Site Master Plan project for site access safety improvements approved at the 2018 annual town meeting.
For tonight's presentation, I'm going to focus on the requested action for this public hearing. In the staff report that you have in your package, tonight's requested action is to approve the removal of 2 public shade trees identified in the public hearing notice in accordance with MGL Chapter 87. The trees include one along Main Street, which is a 32-inch caliper horse chestnut, and the second is along Library Lane, which is a 12-inch caliper Norway maple. This town meeting approved project has a primary objective of increasing overall site safety for all pedestrians traversing the site. Removing the curb reveal along Main Street to create a trip-free transition from the public sidewalk, creating ADA accessible paths, and defining site navigation are primary design objectives. As a practice for town projects, we try to minimize impacts to existing trees. However, in this case, both trees identified for removal are in locations conflicting with elements of the proposed site master plan improvements. And these are intended to achieve expanded accessibility and safety associated with project implementation. So following up on concern raised at meetings with the Historic Business District Commission, or the HBDC, and the Planning Board, the project team looked at the following primary alternatives, including no action, removing the proposed wall in the vicinity of the horse chestnut, and the proposed site plan. The no action alternative is not practicable as it does not meet the objective of this town meeting approved project. Removing the wall and maintaining the tree does not eliminate the need for grading and sidewalk construction, which includes the cutting of roots to meet the project objective. This alternative raises issues with tree survivability, injury liability, and future removal costs. These concerns make this alternative not practicable from a staff perspective. The proposed site plan alternative provides a way to meet the objective of this town meeting approved project. It removes liability associated with construction compromised trees, and provides mitigation for the 2 lost trees, and is practicable in this context.
The bottom line of this is safety. Joe Gagliano, who is the president 2 times before I was, said this is about safety, and I appreciate the comment earlier about liability. It's one of liability. We have an aging tree. It pains me deeply because I am a lover of trees, but I think the time has come, and I hate to say that.
Any type of excavation in that area is going to be detrimental to this tree system. And if we do that, it's going to increase the risk of those trees coming down from a storm or whatever. So I'm more of the opinion that it's maybe time to move forward, plant the appropriate trees for future generations to see grow up and look at it 50, 100, 150 years from now. All those in favor? Select Board Member Nicastro.
Aye.
Select Board Member Davis.
Aye.
Select Board Member Dykens.
Aye.
Select Board Member Shell.
Reluctantly, aye.
And Select Board Member Metters says aye. So, all right.
A second tree hearing was held on the removal of 32 trees of varying size and type along the eastern side of George Ryder Road to accommodate the connection of the Old Colony Rail Trail to the multi-use path along Route 28 in West Chatham. The Select Board voted 4-1 in favor of removal. The League of Women Voters of the Cape Cod area hosts a media misinformation and the protection of democracy as part of the Democracy is Not a Spectator Sport speaker series. Media and journalism experts from Boston University and Northeastern University will discuss the impact of misinformation and disinformation on our democratic process and share resources to help participants understand the difference between accurate news and misinformation. This event will be on Saturday, October 14th from 10 to 11:30 a.m. in Barnstable High School's Knight Hall Auditorium. The Yarmouth Seaside Festival is happening this weekend, October 7th, 8th, and 9th, at the Joshua Sears Memorial Field, across from the Yarmouth Town Hall. The festival has been taking place during Indigenous Peoples Day weekend since 1978, with the goal of creating community spirit and pride in the town of Yarmouth. Throughout the weekend, there will be plenty of options for fun, including pumpkin decorating, wildlife, and birds of prey demonstrations, fireworks, arts and crafts, rides, and even a pie eating contest. For a detailed schedule of the events, please visit YarmouthSeasideFestival.com. The Barnstable Conservation Commission has informally agreed to approve Avangrid Renewables Park City Wind Project later this month. The project will bring power cables from the Vineyard Wind Farm 35 miles off the coast through Craigville Beach to connect to the Eversource substation in West Barnstable. The proposed route will follow Craigville Beach Road in Centerville to Main Street, down Old Stage Road, connecting to Shoe-Flying Hill Road, where the substation is located. This project will bring 800 megawatts to the New England power grid and cut greenhouse gas pollution by over 1.59 million tons per year, comparable to taking 310,000 cars off the road. In addition to these benefits, Avangrid will pay the town of Barnstable a host community fee of $16 million and coordinate with the town's municipal sewer line installation to minimize disruption and absorb some of the cost of the road work. Despite concerns, the Commission and Avangrid assured citizens that Craigville Beach itself will not be disturbed, as horizontal drilling from the west end of the Craigville Beach parking lot will connect the offshore cables. No construction will occur from April 1st to August 31st to avoid exacerbating summer traffic. Experts also weighed in to quell fears about the potential EMF emissions, saying that electromagnetic fields from these cables are comparable to those of household appliances. Since cables will be at least 3 feet under roadways and 50 feet under the beach, any possible EMF effects will be negligible. An official vote to approve the project will take place no later than October 17th. To learn more, please visit parkcitywind.com. The Yarmouth Board of Health met on October 2nd, 2023. The primary focus was on Yarmouth's tobacco regulations. Sarah McColgan, the Tobacco Control Director, was present for the meeting. Topics of discussion included permits for selling tobacco products, fines, and regulations for retail establishments, as well as the possibility of banning smoking bars and introducing a license conversion system. There was also a discussion on whether the ban on blunt wraps should apply solely to flavored ones, permitting plain ones for those over 21. The meeting addressed the importance of retailers obtaining manufacturer letters for legal product sales and challenges in dealing with uncooperative distributors. When it comes to tobacco, Yarmouth is considered the strictest town on Cape Cod and the islands. In 2014, Yarmouth made strides to lower the use of tobacco in the community as a whole by adopting a ban on the sale of flavored tobacco. It also prohibits the sale of tobacco products in pharmacies and has limited the number of tobacco licenses available. Yarmouth also increased the minimum age for purchasing tobacco products to 21, several years before the state adopted the same change. Coming up after the break, Dennis Citizens for Responsible Development. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Cape Media News. I'm Lauren Williamson. Don't harm the charm. Dennis Citizens for Responsible Development, a grassroots community group of residents committed to honoring the rich history of Dennis, showed up in numbers to the Dennis Select Board meeting this week to voice their concerns over the proposed construction of 20 townhouse-style condominiums at the intersection of Route 6A and Hope Lane in the heart of Dennis Village. The Select Board listened to the updates from the developers as well as members of the public in order to decide if they would vote to send the project to the Zoning Board of Appeals for approval. Take a look.
Before I open up the questioning, I do have a letter from our town planner, Paul Foley, who is not in attendance this evening. So I'll read this letter for the record, and it might answer some of your questions as well. It is my understanding that the developer of the proposed 40B project at Hope Lane Village Courtyard is asking the Select Board to sign on to the proposal as it stands today as a friendly 40B. I believe it is premature for the board to make such a decision. At this point, it does not appear to me to be a joint project where there has been a give and take discussion with improvements that mitigate the town's concerns with traffic, pedestrian connections, parking, septage, density, and design. Due to my relative newness and busy schedule, I have not had a lot of time to review the preliminary proposal. At a glance, I have noticed I have a number of questions and would like to look at the site and proposal more thoroughly. Hopefully, through a true back and forth, we can work together and create a revised plan that mitigates some of the town's concerns and still allows the developer to build a creative project that fits the area and adds some units for empty nesters in the town's affordable housing supply.
I feel the development is irresponsible. I want to be very blunt, irresponsible. That density in the town, in the village, is on 2 acres is, I don't know what you guys are thinking about. I mean, that is too much in that little area there.
So I also am one of the founders of a group that we just popped up a few weeks ago, the Dennis Citizens for Responsible Development. And we kind of jumped into action around this project, but really sort of thinking more high level about what the town is doing for affordable housing. There are different types of 40B projects, however. And this particular one, this is a 40B ownership project as opposed to a 40B rental. And I believe, and I think our group believes collectively, that ownership projects for 40B are just not right for Dennis because of the scarcity of land that we have. There's another provision that they added, I think in 2008, that's called the General Land Area Minimum. And what that means is if 1.5% of the available land that's buildable in the town is used for affordable housing, then the town is off the hook. They've met the requirement. Now, it doesn't mean we don't do affordable housing anymore. We absolutely have to do affordable housing. But if we reach that 1.5% target, we no longer need to consider projects like these that are asking for 13 zoning variances and all the other issues. So I'm an engineer, I'm a geek, I'm a math guy, and I spent about last week or so crunching numbers, actually learning the GIS system even to do it the way the state wants you to do it. And what I found so far is that we are actually way closer to 1.5% than you would think. I mean, my numbers could be wrong. We could actually be over the finish line already, which would make this whole conversation moot.
I appreciate Mr. Freeman saying, all of these questions that you have are really better for the ZBA. That's why the Zoning Board of Appeals, and that's when we reveal all of the details. We're not here for that. We're here for this. We're here to implore you, the Select Board, to not give this a friendly 40B, to not say, this is just what Dennis needs and this is just what Dennis wants, and let's do this and let them move on to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
This project is totally not doable unless it's 40B because it abhorrently undermines almost every significant relevant zoning aspect with regards to the way the property is zoned. In their own application, they have already identified 13 of our zoning requirements that they are choosing not to meet.
I have a friendly relationship with the owners for a great many years. And on my way in tonight, I spied one of them and I went over and I said, we've always been friends. I trust we always will be friends. But I must tell you that I cannot endorse what you propose to do. So my hope is that we are at a juncture in the town where we're getting rid of the old way of just say, well, the state's going to allow it anyway, and therefore, why should we get involved? It is time for the people of this community, like yourselves, to become involved. That's where it really starts. It's time for the Board of Selectmen not to give a pass-through to anybody else. They need to do their homework, and I'm convinced that they have the ability to do it, and that if you tell them you expect them to do it, they will do it. They can do it. And lastly, I would say anybody who suggests that the state is always going to give the developer the final approval for whatever the developer wants, we can do better than that. And I think now we have a purpose to do that. Let's change our past approach to things. Let's say we people are going to require high standards. We have that right, but we've never exercised that right before. Well, let it begin here, let it begin now, and let us leave here resolved that if nobody else in the past stood up for us, well, we're going to start the process right here and now, and there's no better way to start it than to scrutinize carefully, as well as fairly, Betterwood Homes project, because there is no more compelling example than that, and it's right here and now. Let's do it.
All right. While the developer did make some improvements, there's still a lot more to go with setbacks on historic 6A, the density, the parking issues, the historic issues, and hopefully I would hope that they would abide by some of the Old Kings Highway rules as a former Old Kings Highway member. And the age restriction, I'm still not a fan of as someone who needs workers and today was employing my 76-year-old dad. I have enough 55 plus on my crew. Environmental issues, the impact on the intersection, safety in the neighborhood as a whole that we heard from many different people on. Due to those reasons, and I quote our town planner, Paul Foley, I believe it is premature for the board to make a decision tonight. And I encourage the next step to be staff review. I think that'd be beneficial for the town. I think it'd be beneficial for the builder. It'd be beneficial for the select board, and I think most of all, it'd be beneficial for the town as a whole.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. If you have a story that you would like to see covered, send us an email at newstip@capemedia.org. Tune in every week for more hyperlocal news that matters on Channel 26, Apple TV, Roku, and Fire TV. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media, including Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. For Cape Media News, as always, I'm Lauren Williamson.